Thank you. Yeah, even great people in the world are at times frustrated. Now, biblical figures or heroes of faith also we see they were at some point of time they were frustrated. Now, before I share my PPT material, I would like to say a few things. No, we see Moses was frustrated at some point of time, and Elijah was frustrated in his life at the threatening words of Jezebel, and even Paul, the greatest hero of the apostle the world has ever seen, he was at some point of time he was frustrated, and he wanted God to intervene in specific ways, and he requested to God, but that was not given the way he requested. But he had to adjust with what the Lord had as answer to his question. Okay, with that introduction, we move on to our topic, which is frustration. Shall I share my screen for you? Can you see?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, let me check. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Understanding the dynamics of frustration. That is a topic I have chosen for today's discussion. Understanding the dynamics of frustration. Okay, this is a very common subject, and most of the people who have some understanding about psychology or counseling are very much familiar with this topic, frustration. What is the meaning? What is frustration? Can you say some answer before I continue? What is frustration in your general understanding? It need not be a scientific or correct definition. What do you think?
It's a reaction when you find that it's a difficult task you're facing.
Yeah, absolutely true. That is it. Let's move on. That is, you understand. At the beginning, as introduction, I told you our desires and plans and our goals don't properly work. The desired result may not come. And at that point of time, the emotional response or the emotion as such we are driven to is called frustration. Okay, frustration is a state of emotional condition or emotional discomfort, as Gifty has rightly pointed out. Frustration is a state of emotional discomfort caused by obstacles that block goal attainment. We all are goal directed, and our actions are directed by our goals. No, anybody who is here in this platform without any goals in life? I'm sure the answer is no, and everybody has goals in life. Any and every normal people will have goals in life. Sometimes goals are thwarted in terms of its fulfillment, achievement. So when that happens, the blockade that happens to the attainment of goals, we tend to be frustrated. We tend to be frustrated. That is not quite abnormal. It's a normal thing. And frustration occurs when desires, needs, or expectations are unfulfilled. So unfulfilled desires, and when achievement or fulfillment of our desires and goals are thwarted, we feel frustrated. Okay, and it includes feelings of helplessness. That is the specialty of frustration. That is why it is sometimes difficult for us to understand, and we need to understand what frustration is, and we have to address it properly. So because the feelings of helplessness can cause difficulties in our personalities as well as in our courses of actions and discharging of our responsibilities in this world. And sometimes we feel irritation, and we feel thwarted of the achievement. We feel failure. and emotional tension. So all these are the outcomes of frustration, results of or consequences of frustration. Okay, I hope you have gone through, or you are at the moment or at points in your life going through such frustrating moments in life. But don't worry, it's not a very serious thing, and if unless and until it seriously affects your behavior, your personality, your courses of action, your interactions, don't worry about that. And if you are able to address them properly, that can be the problem of frustration can be solved in practical ways. Now, what Sigmund Freud. Most of all of you have heard about Sigmund Freud, the famous psychoanalyst and doctor, medical doctor, psychiatrist. Sigmund Freud, he said about frustration like this: frustration is the blocking of instinctual drives. Blocking of instinctual drives. Every human action or behavior is motivated by drives, according to Sigmund Freud. Right? Have you read about Sigmund Freud and his psychology? Human behaviors are motivated by drives and instinctual drives. That was one of the very basic teachings of principles of Sigmund Freud. Have you ever read about Sigmund Freud? Yes. Yeah. We cannot, whoever talks about counseling or psychology cannot forget or cannot help starting with Sigmund Freud. Frustration, according to him, frustration is the blocking of instinctual drives. When our desires that are or action and our motivations or our desires, our goals that are motivated by instinctual drives happen to be blocked on the path of achievement. The result is frustration, according to Freud. And Dollard and Miller. So I cannot explain all the figures I'm making a mention of here. You can probably note down, make a note of all these figures, and later you can read about them in your personal reading spaces. So according to Dollard and Miller, frustration is any obstacle to goal-directed behavior. As I have already pointed out, our behaviors are directed by our goals. When the achievement of those goals are thwarted or some problems or blockades happen, we are frustrated. And in the modern psychology, frustration is a response to perceived gaps between expectations and reality. We have expectations, but sometimes our expectations may not happen as we desire, that they may not fulfill as we expect. And the reality may be on the contrary or the opposite. In that situation, we become frustrated. Okay. So what are few questions we can ask about frustration? So as I have already asked in between, is frustration normal? Is frustration normal? That question, the answer I have already told you, it is quite normal. Yes, it is normal. And as an emotional response. It is an emotional response which is common, and it is not to be considered as abnormal. In the normal sense, it is quite normal for everybody to be frustrated at some points of time. Is frustration always negative? That is another question we can pose about frustration. No, it can motivate. It's not always negative. It can become negative, but it can motivate. Most of the time, in normal frustration, it can motivate improvement. When we are frustrated, we properly, if we are able to address the frustration, it can lead us into greater achievement in life, or in a different way, we are motivated to change our behavior, change our goals, or change our action plans. In such ways, we will be able to improve in our achievement of our goals. And can frustration lead to mental health issues? Yes, the answer is yes. If the frustration we face is persistent and unmanaged. Sometimes some people, the frequency of frustration experiences, no, it's highly frequent, then it is going to be dangerous. If it is persistent and not properly managed, unmanaged frustration can become dangerous and it can lead to mental health issues. Okay, what are the sources of, am I too fast? You can stop me anytime if you are not able to comprehend or get the ideas properly. You can stop me, raise your hand, or stop me anytime and ask me to slow down. What are the sources of frustration? These are very, very simple for nursery level psychology principles, and this subject is very simple, and therefore don't worry about the wordings, the figures and other things. Very simple. See, what are the sources of frustration? So first of all, environmental obstacles. There are environmental obstacles. What are they? So in our normal courses of life, everyday life, we face problems like traffic jam. And that can really drive us in panic and distress and cause to frustration. We feel frustrated when we are caught up in traffic jam and we are not able to move ahead and we are not able to attend our schedules in time. And that can lead to frustration. Delays that happens because of traffic and other things, or sicknesses, or any and every reason can cause delay in our schedules, in our achievement of our goals and our plans and our wishes. And also lack of resources is one of the crucial obstacles that we face that cause frustrations in our lives. Lack of resources. When we are faced with some needs, and that needs financial backing, and when we do not find sufficient funds for meeting some needs, buying some things that we really wanted and really have in our lives, we feel frustrated in our lives. Environmental factors, okay, environmental obstacles to that cause frustration. Then internal factors such as fear. Fear. Some people have normal fear. Some people are phobic. Psychologically, they are predisposed to various kinds of phobias, and lack of skills in job, in career, in the responsibilities that we perform, that can cause frustration. Low self-confidence, confidence in life can also cause frustration in life. And there are social obstacles also that account for frustration in life. Discrimination in places, in some countries. People face discrimination on the basis of caste, color, creed, religion, and so on. That can also become a source of frustration in life. Sometimes we are not able to express ourselves. We are not able to have our opportunities along with other citizens of the nation. And in such situations, we feel like neglected, sidelined, marginalized, suppressed, oppressed, and so on. And the result is frustration in our lives, thwarting of our goal-directed tendencies or behaviors. So, and our expectations, sometimes even our expectations can cause frustration. Some of our expectations may not be realistic. Pressures in life, pressures of life can cause frustration. About expectations, and goals in life. We talk about setting goals for achievement of purposes and desires in life. For that, we need a very clearly defined action plan. And if we do not have very clearly defined and executed action plan, achievements of our goals may be thwarted, and it may not come by easily, and it may not become very easy. Then frustration is inevitable. Expectations and goals must be realistic, right? Sometimes some people set goals and they have expectations that are not realistic. And based on our talent, our skills, our education, our environmental factors, every resources that are available for us, we must set our goals, in a smart way. Have you heard about smart goals? Have you heard of smart goals? What is smart goal? It is specific, measurable, achievable,
attainable, realistic, and time specific.
Realistic and time bound. Okay.
Time specific.
Excellent. So our goals must be smart goals. If our goals are not smart, frustration can result, and achievement of goals may be thwarted or blocked in the way of fulfillment. So social obstacles like discrimination, expectations and goals, pressures, etc. And also personal expectations. So like I've already told you, unrealistic goals and perfectionism sometimes can cause frustration. So we achieve goals, but we are not satisfied at all. And Bible also talks about godliness with contentment, right? Godliness with contentment. Satisfaction in life is very important. And sometimes perfectionism drives us not to become satisfied of what we are having in life. The achievement of our goals may be sometimes not acceptable for us because of our perfectionism. That is not enough. Now, greater and greater levels of need satisfaction is aimed at. Then the result may be frustration. Okay. Something is blocking me. I'm sorry. Okay. Personal expectations. Something happened in which I mistyped. Don't worry about that. Okay. Then now we move on to expectation. Expectation. The first one, reality conflict. Frustration originates or arises from mismatch between expectations and actual outcome. We talked about goals, setting smart goals or expectations, and so realistic goals. So frustration sometimes or most of the time arises from mismatch, a conflict between expectations and actual outcomes. We expect something and the result is something else. There is a mismatch, there is a conflict. Then the outcome is frustration. Then unrealistic expectations, and plus poor outcome is equal to intense frustration. So different levels or degrees of frustration. What is intense frustration? When we have high expectations, but outcomes are very poor, not as we desired, then the frustration is very intense. And learning to balance expectations can reduce frustration. As I have told, setting smart goals and learning to balance expectations. Expectations and goals must be balanced. Otherwise, unrealistic goals and unrealistic expectations can definitely cause frustration in life. Okay. And what are the major theories? Some of the theory I cannot go in detail. If we are to go in detail, it will take much time. So I will just make a mention of the important theories and move on to the next stage of discussion. So frustration aggression hypothesis is frustration aggression hypothesis proposed by Dollard and Miller, and second one is learned helplessness is another theory proposed by Martin E.P. Seligman, and humanistic view, the humanistic psychologists like Carl Rogers, Maslow and all. Frustration blocks self-actualization. Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow introduced the concept of self-actualization, and the humanistic psychologists say frustration blocks self-action. We'll come to all that. Once again, cognitive appraisal theory. Interpretation of events determines emotional response. Sometimes the way we interpret, the way we conceive or perceive the interpretation of the events that happen in our lives, sometimes that they determine emotional response, or that sometimes leads to frustration. Okay. Now we come to the first theory, frustration aggression hypothesis. Frustration aggression hypothesis. Frustration often leads to aggression. That is one of the serious consequences of frustration. What is that? Aggression, anger, emotion, and in an intensified expression of anger as aggression, aggressive responses. Aggression can be physical aggression, and it can be emotional, and also it can be passive. Blocked goals, so it produces tension in our lives, in our psyche, and that can produce anger in us, and subsequently aggressive responses. We resort to respond in an aggressive way. So this aggression, so as according to frustration aggression hypothesis, this aggression, frustration produces aggression, and this aggression is not always physical, not necessarily always physical. It can be verbal. Now, in family conflicts and also sometimes frustration leads to verbal abuse, verbal aggression, and emotional aggression, and sometimes aggression can be directed in a passive way, passive aggression, passive aggressive. No, I can lead to a personality disorder as such, passive aggressive behavior. Okay, these are simple thing for us to remember or just understand. Learned helplessness, that is the second theory. You know, have you heard about Seligman? Who is Seligman? Martin E.P. Seligman. What is the psychology proposed by Seligman? Anybody can unmute and answer? Martin E.P. Seligman. Quick. Very important. Anybody unmute and say the school of psychology propounded by Seligman, presently existing. Anybody? Martin E.P. Seligman, positive psychology. And one of his propositions is learned helplessness. According to Seligman, when repeated failures occur, individuals stop trying. Repeated failures result in stoppage of trying by people. When repeated failures occur, individuals stop trying. So frustration results and frustration persists in such situations. And this learned helplessness leads to depression, withdrawal, and hopelessness. So all these are variants of frustration or causes of frustration. They lead to depression, withdrawal, and hopelessness. So if our frustration turns to this direction, it is little intense and serious, and it can lead to depression, clinical depression sometimes, or withdrawal from daily activities or active life, and can turn you to be hopeless in life. And for example, students repeatedly failing and giving up studies. Now, there's a common tendency in some universities. Some students not able to take the pressures, face the pressures of academic life expectations. Some students become dropouts. They fail in their tests or examinations, and finally they give up their studies. In India, that happens. Many engineering students, that happens. Many MBBS students, medicine students, they become dropouts because of various reasons, and sometimes they don't use time properly. They have bad company of friends. They resort to smoking, drinking, alcoholism, and so on, drug addiction. and they are not able to concentrate in their studies, focus on their studies. They fail repeatedly, and out of their frustration, they give up their studies. And frustration versus stress versus anger. Okay, frustration. What is frustration? It is emotional disturbance due to blocked goals. So we are repeating the same concept, same definition again. What is stress? Internal pressure caused by demands exceeding capacity. Human beings, we have limited capacity. We have psychic energy. According to Sigmund Freud, we have limited amount of psychic energy, and for the portion of psychic energy we utilize for one action is not available for other actions. Therefore, the distribution of psychic energy or our energy for activities must be balanced. So let's talk about stress. It is internal pressure caused by demands that are exceeding our capacity. Okay, anger. So these are responses of frustration. Anger, strong emotional response to perceived threat or injustice. So when we have problems like emotional distress caused by threats to our perceived goals, our pursued goals, and we feel that we face injustice. It is injustice that the system or people or the church is driving us in, and we feel like becoming angry. Anger response is a natural response. It's in such situations. And emotional reactions to frustration. We all are frustrated many times in life, and the frequency of being frustrated, becoming frustrated matters very much. And the way we address the frustrating experiences also is very much important. How do we respond? How do we react to frustration is very important in dealing with frustration. What are the emotions? Sadness, anger, irritation are three typical responses, emotional response reactions to frustration. Disappointment and blame. Instead of accepting the responsibility of the frustration, sometimes we blame shift, and we project the blame on other people. That is a defense mechanism, and anxiety, tension, and confusion. These all are results of emotional reactions to frustration. And sometimes that these emotional reactions can tend to be behavioral reactions. When emotions remain in ourselves, it doesn't produce much social problems. And sometimes it can affect our social interactions, but our behavioral reactions to frustration can become more difficult. So one is aggression, as we have already tried to understand. Verbal, physical, and emotional aggression can seriously affect our own personalities as well as our interactions in the network of relationships. And withdrawal. So sometimes we feel like withdrawing from life, from our goals, our paths to path of executing our plans for achieving our goals. Isolation, passive behavior drives us to withdrawal. And compensation, that is seen in some people, rarely seen. And compensatory behavior, working harder and harder to achieve the goal. And it is compensatory, but that is to be understood in a positive way. Sometimes that can have negative impact also in people and in our physical bodies, in our emotional conditions and all. And sometimes people become workaholics to achieve goals, to address the thwarting of the achievement of goals. And regression, for example, childish behavior or dependency, an adult person or a middle-aged person behaving like a teenage child or a 6-year-old boy or girl. that is called the regression. That is also a defense mechanism to address frustrating experiences in life. Okay. What are the types of frustration? Blocked needs or social, emotional, and financial aspects of frustration. They are blocked needs. Frustration causes because of our needs are blocked or thwarted. Second, situational frustration. As I pointed out, traffic jam, delays that happen in life, and our programs, our studies, or our job, or the plans that we have in life can be delayed because of various situational factors. It can be sickness also, and dispositional frustration. It is disposed, in our personality. Predisposing causes are there in our personality, and so the frustration caused by dispositions or personality traits are called dispositional frustrations. That is innate, that is there in our personality. The conflict frustration. So another kind of type of frustration is conflict frustration. That is moral or choice-based conflict. Now, as Christians, this can be a real thing for us. We struggle sometimes to choose between right and wrong, good and bad, relevant and irrelevant, fitting and not fitting. Okay, these are ethical questions. Moral choices, sometimes conflicting choices may come on way, and which direction I would take, which choice I would make. These perplexities in choices, ethical choices that we are supposed to make, can cause frustration in our lives. That is another kind of frustration, moral or choice-based frustration or conflict. Common misunderstandings or misconceptions concerning frustration. And some people, many people think only weak people get frustrated. Only the psychologically distressed people or weak people get frustrated. That is a wrong notion, wrong idea. Everybody can get frustrated at some point of time. And frustration always leads to anger. That is also another misconception. Frustration need not always lead to anger. It can produce good results, positive outcomes. And in some way, frustration is good also. Being frustrated in especially in Christian context. So the complacency, self-complacency is sometimes the mark of the end time, according to Paul and Jesus. People become callous and they are not responsive or not careful. They take things for granted. Faith matters, no? Frustration should be suppressed. That is another misconception. Frustration should be suppressed. It is something sinful or something bad, so it should be suppressed. Instead of addressing it, it is an escapism. It is a defense mechanism that people try to suppress the frustrating experiences. It must be managed. Instead of suppressing or repressing, it must be managed, not suppressed or avoided. It should be avoided in the long run, but immediately we cannot escape. It should not be suppressed. Okay, not only weak people get frustrated. Frustration always need not lead to anger response. Frustration need not be suppressed or should not be suppressed. Instead, frustration should be managed. And what are the consequences of poorly managed? When we are not able to properly manage our frustrations, what happens? Okay, mental health issues can cause because of such frustrations, or we are not able to manage frustrations well, such as mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and so on. and relationship problems, misunderstandings, conflicts, and breaking of relational bonds and so on. Okay, relationship problems can result in poorly managed frustrations. Okay, thirdly, performance problems. And when frustration becomes serious and not properly addressed in our lives, we feel very much helpless, and we feel like quitting, and we feel that I cannot do it. I'm not capable enough. I'm not skilled enough to face this challenge. And we are motivated in a negative manner, low motivation. All can happen because of poorly managed frustration, performance problems. No, when we are supposed to be effective in our job, in our career, in our desires, our plan for achievement, our performance can be affected badly because of poorly managed frustrations. And physical issues like headaches, fatigue, high blood pressure, all this psychosomatic issues, problems, diseases can be caused because of, or can result from poorly managed frustration experiences. Then what is healthy coping mechanism? What are the healthy coping mechanisms to frustration? Well, problem solving approach. We should develop a problem solving approach when we feel like frustrated in life. Emotional regulation. So we come to that. Okay, don't worry about these things. Emotional regulation. For example, deep breathing, the breathing exercise, or relaxation therapy, or journaling. Sometimes when our minds are frustrated and we feel grudges against some others, or we feel angry, aggressive towards some situation or some people, then, or we need to be thankful at some times. So journaling will help us know what are the events that drive me to get anger, to be aggressive, and why am I responding in an aggressive way. And see, gratitude journals. What are some few things that I should be thankful to? Who are the people who supported me emotionally or financially or by way of spiritual counseling? Who are the people? Have I thanked enough? Am I grateful enough to them? And have I expressed my gratitude? And who are the people I should make a phone call and say thank you because of what they have done, the favors they have done to you. And you can take a notebook, a diary, and you can write journal your frustrating situations, your responses to frustrating situations, and so on. And cognitive restructuring, it is a psychological device technique, therapeutic intervention strategy we can use in counseling. That is changing negative thought patterns. Sometimes we mistakenly think certain things, conclude certain things that they are so. It is so. I'm like this, or they are like that, or I cannot change. These negative thoughts can be named properly, understood properly, and intentionally we have to frame phrases that can positively change our negative thoughts. Cognitive restructuring is a intervention strategy used in which therapy? Which therapy? Answer quickly. CBT. Cognitive behavior therapy. Cognitive behavior therapy. So negative thoughts are challenged, and that strategy is called cognitive restructuring. Okay. Social support. Now, healthy coping mechanism. So about cognitive distortion, we must positively understand things and frustrating experiences and say or understand things in a positive manner, positive frame of reference. And say if your mind says you are good for nothing, then you can say you are a capable person. You have the skill enough to address this problem. You have enough resources. You are educated enough. You have enough resources. You are wise enough. You are healthy enough. You can do it. So instead of negative patterns of thinking, you reframe it in a positive manner, and that should become a pattern of thinking, a continually practiced pattern of thinking in your life. That is cognitive restructuring. Social support, the healthy coping mechanisms. So think about social support that available, like friends, friendship circle, mentors, or people you can trust or look up to when you are faced with issues. Counselors, sometimes you need the support of a counselor, guidance of a counselor or a teacher or a pastor in your church context. You seek support from people if it is spiritual issues or spiritual frustration, emotional, or any other. You need some people's or social support, pastors, friends, counselors, adults, partners, your husband or wife, your children, whoever, all can be of help in such situations. That each person should decide whom should I look up to in dealing with my in coping with my frustrating experiences. So in counseling perspective, how should we understand frustration? So as people who go through a training program in counseling, diploma in counseling, you are already counselors, or in some way you are doing it, and we have to be counselors and helping people out in frustrating experiences they present in their lives. Help individuals recognize the sources of frustration. So as we have tried to understand now, help individuals recognize the sources of frustration they are faced with. Secondly, teach coping strategies and emotional regulation. Okay, you need a proper understanding of what is frustration, what are the sources of frustration, what are the different theories through which we can define or understand frustration, what are the healthy coping strategies we can adopt in frustration. So these things you can advance or update through your personal reading and preparation. And if you are involving in counseling service or ministry, teach coping strategies and emotional regulation. Encourage resilience and positive thinking. Positive thinking, no? The present context, that is very important. So in cognitive behavior therapy, the cognitive restructuring is a positive understanding of our responses to frustration. Then turning our negatives into positive, negative thought patterns into positive thought patterns. So encourage resilience. You know what is resilience? Probably in the next classes, I will deal with resilience, coping and resilience. Therefore, I don't want to deal with take much time on resilience. It is okay. Our time is getting up. I got the signal. Let me just conclude with the remaining thing and a little bit. I think a couple of minutes more. We may go and maybe the complete 1 hour class maybe or may not be possible with the material I have to share with you. Focus on realistic goal setting and expectations. Focus on realistic goal setting and expectations. That is the perspective that we should adopt in our counseling ministry. Okay, frustration or frustrating situations in daily life. Examples, no, academic failure or job rejection, relationship conflicts and miscommunication, financial problems or social restrictions, technology failure or delayed outcomes. All these do not need explanations. You can understand them simply. So guiding questions each student in this platform should ask, when do you, or you can ask yourself, when do I feel most frustrated? How do I usually react? Are my reactions constructive or destructive? What changes can I make to improve my responses? So these are the questions you can ask yourself when you are frustrated. Okay, how can we turn frustration into motivation? Accept situations and emotions. So instead of avoiding or escaping from situations or our emotions, accept them. Reevaluate goals or strategies. Use challenges as learning opportunities. Failures and challenges and frustrations are stepping stones for greater levels of achievements in life. Develop patience, flexibility, and resilience. Instead of becoming perfectionists, we must set smart goals. We need patience, flexibility, and resilience. So values and spiritual approach in dealing with frustration. Frustration can teach patience and humility, because if you positively respond to frustration, it can teach you positive lessons, and that will lead you to humility, patience, and humility. Sometimes frustrations have caused because of your lack of patience and lack of your absence of humility, and that will bring out a positive outcome. You will become more patient and you would become more humble in life. Belief systems and values provide emotional stability. So if you need any change or reshaping of the belief systems or values that you have inculcated over time, and you need emotional stability in terms of the values and the systems of values and moral thoughts or patterns of thinking that you have adopted in life. Prayer, reflection, and mindfulness all reduce emotional tension. Prayer, reflect on what's happening, and do everything mindfully. Mindfulness is a therapy nowadays, a counseling device you can use. Mindful, whenever you do something, fully focus on what you are doing instead of environmental factors or hurdles or frustrating situations. Focus on what you are doing at the moment, what you feel, what are the emotions you feel in your heart at the moment. All these should be focused. When you do anything, do it in a focused manner. Frustration and personality. People with type A personality experience frustration more frequently. I don't have time to explain all that. Just listen and try to understand. Introverts tend to internalize frustration. They keep frustration as a pattern of behavior in their life. They don't respond. They are mostly passive aggressive in their behavior. So they internalize the frustration experience. Emotionally intelligent individuals manage frustration better. So who should we become? We must become emotionally intelligent individuals, being able to manage or handle or address frustration in a positive way. So to summarize, frustration is a normal emotional response. It arises due to obstacles to goals. It can lead to aggression or personal growth. Can either be negative or it can tend to be negative. Can lead to aggression or personal goals. Healthy coping makes frustration a stepping stone to success. That is very, very important. Healthy, we should learn healthy coping strategies to frustration. Let me conclude my words. Frustration is unavoidable. It is not a sin. It is not always negative, but it is manageable if you are careful enough, if you address it properly and healthily. Every challenge teaches emotional maturity. Therefore, frustration should result in emotional maturity. That is a natural process through which we can strengthen our emotion, our personality and emotional maturity. Cultivate resilience, being able to bounce back in awkward situations or untoward situations in life, and being able to address them in more positive manner when similar situations arise in future courses of life. Patience and emotional intelligence. So frustration produces resilience, patience, and emotional intelligence. Okay, I hope you enjoyed listening, and interactions are minimal because of this platform we are using, not a personal or face-to-face interaction in a classroom setting. Okay, if you want to give a feedback a couple of minutes, I'll be happy, or in the concluding session, the leader can do that. Thank you so much for being patient enough
Yeah.
to listen to me very carefully, keenly attentive.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Saji, for this information. I like the questions that you put for each one of us, where we can assess how we handle issues in life, and also identify patterns in that to see where attention needs to be given more. Thank you for that. We're already late, but we'll just take half a minute if anybody has any questions. I don't think anyone's going to say, but if anybody has questions, we can, uh, postpone it to our next session, because I think he'll be taking few classes, so we can get those answered there. So I'll call if Dr. Thomas wants to say something. You can stop the recording, Dr. Saji. Thank you. Dr. Thomas, are you there? He's probably resting.